Before anything else, stop what you're doing and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications, drop a comment, like this video, and share it with someone who thinks they've heard every cheating story out there. Trust me, they haven't. I know what you're thinking. How does a married woman end up sitting on her stepson's lap and let things happen? But what if I told you that betrayal doesn't always start in a bedroom, but in a backseat with too many people and not enough space? This is not just a cheating story. This is a true story of infidelity, of secrets born in silence, of desires that show up when no one's paying attention. And I'm not proud of what I'm about to confess, but I'd be lying if I said I regret every second. They say real temptation isn't loud, it whispers. It sneaks in through laughter, through convenience, through moments we label harmless. This was supposed to be a fun family trip to the beach. My husband was there, my friend, the kids. But life has a twisted sense of timing. And in just 7 minutes, I found myself crossing a line I never thought I'd even see. I became the woman behind a shocking confession, and the silence that followed spoke louder than any scream. You're about to hear what really happened, raw, unfiltered, and deeply human. It was supposed to be just another sunny Saturday. You know, those family outings that look picture perfect on Instagram. Beach, snacks, the kids running around, laughter carried by the breeze. My husband had brought along his 2 boys from his first marriage, and I had invited a friend to make it all more lively. From the outside, we looked like one of those blended families who actually made it work. No one would have guessed this day would soon become a cheating story no one would ever dare to confess out loud. The water was warm, and the sand felt like silk under my toes. We shared a big towel, passed around fries and cold drinks, and took turns in the ocean. I remember looking at my husband and feeling that odd, quiet pride, like, we really made it. We're one of the good ones. But underneath that, something stirred. A feeling I couldn't quite name yet, one that would soon unravel into a shocking confession. I noticed the way my stepson kept glancing at me, especially when I adjusted my bikini or reached for sunscreen. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. After all, what motherly figure suspects that? But something in those eyes wasn't childlike anymore. And it hit me in that moment, like a whisper from somewhere I shouldn't be listening to. This wasn't going to be just a family day. It was about to become a forbidden love narrative that could ruin everything. And still, I smiled. I played my role. I passed the chips, laughed at my husband's jokes, posed for pictures with my friend. But my mind? It was already drifting into dangerous territory, somewhere between guilt and curiosity, where every glance felt like a question left unanswered. That's how most infidelity stories begin, not with a bang, but with a breeze. And as the sun began to set, something inside me was about to rise. The ride back home looked like nothing more than a tight squeeze. We had too many people and too little space, and somehow I ended up in the back seat with the boys. My husband offered the front to my friend, and the younger son claimed the far corner. That left me with my stepson on his lap. It was just for comfort, we told ourselves, but every cheating wife knows how some decisions wear a mask of innocence. I told myself it was fine. I mean, what else could we do? I laughed, made a joke about feeling like a teenager again, riding on someone's lap. My stepson chuckled nervously, his arms hesitantly wrapping around my waist to keep me steady. It felt like the beginning of a betrayal story disguised as a logistical solution. And once the doors shut, it was like we were in our own world. I could feel the tension in his breathing. Every bump on the road brought us closer, literally. It was like the universe was playing a cruel game, letting every jolt of the car stir something inside us. And in that cramped back seat, wedged between silence and stolen air, the line between right and wrong started to blur. This wasn't just a true story. It was an accident waiting to happen, and part of me didn't want to stop it. It's funny how some of the biggest sins don't come wrapped in fire. They arrive quietly, wrapped in justifications and tight spaces. I didn't speak much during the drive. I couldn't. My body was pressed against temptation, and every second felt like I was dancing on the edge of a story of betrayal I hadn't yet agreed to tell. But my silence was screaming, and someone was definitely listening. Maybe it was the bikini. It was new, a bit daring, and I wore it because I wanted to feel seen by my husband. But in that back seat, I started noticing who was actually seeing me. My skin still carried the salt of the ocean. My hair was messy from the wind, and I could feel his gaze trailing over me like waves that refused to retreat. That wasn't just a look. It was an infidelity story waiting to unfold. He wore only his swim trunks, still damp, the fabric sticking to his skin. Our bodies were pressed together, warm and slick, pretending it was all just a consequence of space. But our silence screamed louder than any conversation. Every time the car slowed or turned, I shifted, and every shift made the air between us heavier. I wasn't just a passenger anymore. I was becoming the lead character in a cheating story I couldn't rewrite. There's a kind of electricity that no one talks about, an invisible pull that turns proximity into danger. I felt his hand slide slightly along my thigh, maybe by accident, maybe not. But I didn't stop it. I didn't flinch. That moment held a weight I hadn't expected, the kind that splits your soul in half. One side craving safety, the other seduced by chaos. That's when I knew this emotional cheating wasn't just in my head anymore. It's strange how a swimsuit and 7 minutes of silence can create a marriage betrayal. I kept thinking, this isn't real, but the warmth of his body, the way his breath hit my neck, it was all too real. And just like that, what started as a casual ride back from the beach was turning into a forbidden love story, right there in the back seat, where no one else was paying attention, but we were. The road wasn't long, but every speed bump felt like an earthquake under my skin. With each jolt, my body shifted against his, and I could feel how our breathing synced without planning. At some point, I stopped pretending it was just discomfort. His arousal pressed against me, unmistakable, undeniable, and yet, I didn't move. That moment marked the silent birth of a cheating wife, not because of a kiss, but because I let it happen. I could feel his hands, shaky, unsure, resting at my sides as if trying to be respectful, but already betraying that thin boundary. The heat between our skins was unbearable, but it wasn't just physical. It was emotional, intoxicating, a kind of emotional cheating that words couldn't cover up. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, pretending not to notice, while my body absorbed every second like stolen honey. It was both disturbing and exhilarating. That space between his lips and my back, it felt magnetic, like something waiting to snap. I didn't want to face myself in that rearview mirror, but I could feel my husband's eyes up front, laughing with my friend, trusting me without doubt. That trust, the thing I was supposed to protect, was quietly being shattered. And still, I didn't pull away. That's the core of any infidelity confession. We often betray long before we ever touch. My inner voice was screaming, but not to stop. It was asking why it felt so good to be wanted in silence, to be desired in secret, to live, just for a moment, outside the boundaries of a wife and stepmother. And in that storm of sensation, I realized this wasn't just a true story about a ride home. It was a shocking confession unfolding in real time. And no one else in that car had any idea. It's wild how you can be in a car full of people and still feel like you're hiding in plain sight. I kept talking to my friend in the front seat, asking about her playlist, laughing at her stories, doing everything I could to keep up the illusion. My husband chimed in, oblivious, while my stepson and I remained locked in that charged silence. Every word I spoke out loud was a mask. Every pause was a story of betrayal silently unfolding. I became an actress in my own life, smiling with my mouth while screaming with my conscience. My hips shifted slightly on his lap as the car swayed, and I could feel him tense beneath me. We exchanged no words, but our bodies were already deep into a forbidden love script. And yet, I kept playing the game, pretending nothing was happening, pretending I wasn't becoming the cheating wife I used Julgar nos outros. He started whispering things, barely audible. Short sentences like, "You smell good," or "You're beautiful." It was dangerous, reckless, and yet no one in the front heard a thing. I answered with a slight smile or a nervous giggle, anything that could pass as innocent. But inside, it felt like every breath we took together was another page in this infidelity story being written under everyone's noses. I knew that if I looked at him, just once, I wouldn't be able to hold it together. So I didn't. I stared out the window, hiding behind sunglasses, pretending I was bored or tired. But my heart raced like a criminal's. Every bump on the road felt like a reminder. This isn't who I planned to be. And yet, here I was living a cheating story that I couldn't rewind, only fast forward. When we finally pulled into the driveway, I felt like I had held my breath for 7 minutes straight. Everyone got out of the car, like it was just another normal day. But I lingered a second longer, still on his lap, before slowly sliding off, careful not to make eye contact with anyone else, except him. And that glance sealed our infidelity confession without a single word spoken. He looked at me the way someone looks at a secret they swear they'll never tell. And I looked back, silently promising the same. My husband was unlocking the front door, my friend was grabbing her bag, and the world just kept spinning. But inside me, everything had changed. That ride had become more than a cheating story. It was now our shared truth, hidden in plain sight. There was a strange comfort in our silence. We didn't need to say anything. The tension, the looks, the memory of touch, it was all suspended in that heavy quiet between us. I knew I had crossed a line I could never uncross. And the most terrifying part? I didn't feel guilt. Not then. I felt connection. A twisted kind of intimacy, the kind that builds the foundation of a betrayal story you keep replaying in your head. As we entered the house, the others laughed, talked about dinner, about plans for the night. I played along, but my mind stayed in that back seat. I couldn't stop replaying every second, every bump, every breath, every stolen glance. That 7-minute ride didn't just end when the engine turned off. No. That was just the beginning of a true story I didn't know how to end. Now that you've heard it all, let me ask you something real. How many secrets live in the silence of your daily life? We often think betrayal only happens when bodies meet behind closed doors. But what about those moments when minds wander and hearts cross lines no one else can see? This wasn't just a forbidden love story. It was a mirror, a wake-up call. Because the truth is, cheating doesn't start with a kiss. It starts with attention, with curiosity, with needs unmet and emotions ignored. And if you're not paying attention, it could be happening in your house right now. So, what about you? Have you ever ignored a feeling that later became a secret? Do you think emotional cheating is as dangerous as the physical kind? Would you forgive a betrayal that never made it to the bedroom, but still broke something inside you? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And if this story made you think, even for a second, subscribe now. Turn on that bell so you don't miss the next real confession. Like this video and share it with someone who believes they'd never be capable of crossing the line. Because sometimes the line moves